Have you ever felt completely invisible? Like you could disappear from a room and nobody would even notice you were gone? Emma Hayes knew that feeling better than anyone. For years, she'd perfected the art of becoming a shadow, moving through spaces where she didn't belong, cleaning up after people who never saw her face. But one morning, her trembling fingers touched something that would shatter her invisible world forever. Before we dive into Emma's incredible journey, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is going to take you places you never expected. And when you get to the end, leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far Emma's story travels across the world. Now, let me tell you about the moment everything changed. The Riverside Grand Hotel smelled like money, not the fresh, clean kind, the old, settled kind that comes from decades of wealthy people drinking champagne in ballrooms that cost more to rent than most people earn in 6 months. Emma Hayes pushed her cleaning cart down the marble hallway at 7:15 inches the morning, her worn gray uniform making her blend into the walls like wallpaper. At 28 years old, she'd become an expert at disappearing. When you're poor in a rich person's world, invisibility isn't just a skill, it's survival. Her hands, though. Her hands remembered everything. 3 years at the Manhattan Fashion Institute before her father collapsed in their tiny Bronx apartment, clutching his chest. 3 years of learning the language of fabric, the poetry of textiles, the way real quality whispers its secrets to anyone who knows how to listen. Then medical bills came like an avalanche, burying her dreams under debt that never stopped growing. Now she worked 3 jobs: the hotel during the day, a diner at night, weekend warehouse, shifts when she could barely stand. All to keep her mother breathing with an oxygen machine that hummed like a mechanical prayer, and her baby sister Lily in community college, still chasing the dreams Emma had to abandon. But that morning, that Tuesday morning that would crack her life wide open, Alexander Sterling's fashion house was transforming the Imperial Ballroom into something magical. Emma had cleaned this space 1,000 times. She knew which floorboards creaked, which corners the light hit at exactly 8 a.m., which tiles had tiny chips nobody else could see. But she'd never seen it like this. Racks of suits that cost more than her yearly salary. Fabric samples arranged like precious jewels under museum lighting. She was reaching to empty a trash bin when it happened. A deep navy fabric swatch slipped from the display table, floating down like a silk leaf. Emma bent automatically, her fingers closing around it, and the moment she touched it, the world stopped. Wrong. Everything about it was wrong. She lifted it slowly, tilted it toward the morning sun, streaming through the ballroom windows. Her thumb traced the weave. Her fingertips tested the weight, the drape, the resistance. Then she brought it close to her ear and let it rustle. The sound made her blood run cold. "That's not Italian wool," she whispered to the empty room. "That's, oh God, real wool breathes. It has a softness when it moves, like wind through autumn trees, like her father's hands guiding hers through samples in the garment district when she was 7 years old. Asterisk. True hands will always find what's true, baby girl. Always. Asterisk. This sound was different. Harsh. Brittle. Like plastic pretending to be something precious. "Excuse me. What the hell do you think you're doing?" Emma's head snapped up so fast her neck cracked. A woman stood 15 feet away, arms crossed, red lipstick perfect as a knife slash. Victoria Cross, the creative director. Emma had seen her name on industry blogs, always next to words like visionary and revolutionary. "I'm sorry, ma'am." It fell. That's a $1,500 fabric sample." Victoria's voice could cut glass. "Put it down. Immediately." Emma set it back with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Across the ballroom, a man in a charcoal suit glanced over. Tall, sharp-featured, with the kind of presence that made the air rearrange itself around him. Alexander Sterling, the CEO himself. He looked at Emma for exactly 3 seconds, then turned back to his phone call, like she'd never existed. Emma grabbed her cart and ran. That evening, Emma's supervisor found her restocking minibar chocolates on the 14th floor. Have you seen the fashion news today? Emma shook her head, trying to make her hands steady enough to arrange tiny bottles of vodka in perfect rows. Alexander Sterling's company is being accused of using counterfeit fabrics. It's everywhere online. Investors are panicking. Emma's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. She thought of the swatch, the wrong sound, the plastic whisper hiding under expensive lies. And she wondered if this invisible girl had just touched the edge of something that could destroy her. The summons came at midnight. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Asterisk. Emergency meeting. 8 a.m. Alexander Sterling requests your presence. This is not optional. Asterisk. Emma didn't sleep. She lay in the cramped apartment she shared with her mother and sister, listening to the oxygen machine hum its mechanical lullaby, listening to neighbors scream through paper-thin walls, listening to her own heartbeat count down the hours until morning. At 7:45 a.m., she stood outside the conference room where she'd cleaned coffee stains from mahogany tables 100 times. She'd never imagined sitting in it. But she wasn't sitting. She was standing by the door like a prisoner, with a security guard watching her like she might run. Alexander Sterling stood at the head of the table, exhaustion carved into his beautiful, stern face. Around him sat lawyers, executives, consultants who charged more per hour than Emma made in a month. Victoria Cross sat to his right, perfectly composed, her red nails drumming a slow, predatory rhythm on the polished wood. Before we address the media, Victoria began, her voice smooth as poisoned honey. We need to identify how this contamination occurred. A hotel employee was observed mishandling our samples yesterday morning. 20 pairs of eyes turned to Emma. I only picked up what fell, Emma said quietly. Nothing more. Really? Victoria slid a security photo across the table. It showed Emma holding the fabric to her ear, eyes closed, completely absorbed. This is a professional showcase, not a place for hotel staff to play textile detective. Uncomfortable laughter rippled through the room like a disease. But Alexander Sterling didn't laugh. He studied the photo, then looked at Emma directly. You were listening to the fabric. His voice wasn't mocking. It was genuinely curious. Yes, sir. Why? Emma's throat felt like sandpaper. Because real fabric tells you what it is, if you know how to listen. A lawyer scoffed. Victoria's smile could have frozen fire, but Alexander leaned forward. What did it tell you? 20 pairs of eyes. 20 people who mattered, who belonged, who built empires while she cleaned their offices. Emma felt her pulse hammering against her ribs like something trying to escape. It told me something was wrong, she said carefully. Italian wool has a specific weight when it moves. A softness. What I heard sounded drier, sharper, like synthetic fiber blended in. The room went absolutely silent. Victoria's laugh was surgical. You're suggesting a housekeeper can identify fabric composition by sound? That's absurd. Is it? Alexander's quiet voice cut through the tension like a blade. He turned to his production head. Pull the certifications on that Navy batch. Mill receipts, import documents, everything. Alexander, we've already verified. Victoria began. Verify it again. Victoria's smile didn't waver, but something cold and dangerous flickered in her eyes. Emma was dismissed. Emma rode the subway home in a daze, pressed between strangers, invisible again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Asterisk. This is Marcus Hill, logistics coordinator at Sterling House. Mr. Sterling would like to see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please come to our headquarters. This is important. Asterisk. That night, Emma couldn't breathe right. She sat on the fire escape outside their apartment, watching the city lights blur through tears she wouldn't let fall. Her father used to bring her to the garment district when she was small. He'd press fabric samples into her palms like sacred objects, teaching her to feel the difference between cotton and linen, real silk and polyester imposters. Asterisk. True hands will always find what's true, baby girl. You have a gift. Asterisk. She'd believed him once. Now she wondered if that gift was about to destroy what little life she had left. The next morning, Emma stood outside Sterling House headquarters. a gleaming tower of glass and steel that touched the clouds. The receptionist looked her up and down second-hand peacoat, canvas sneakers, hands rough from cleaning chemicals, and made her wait 30 minutes. Marcus Hill met her in the lobby, younger than expected, maybe 25, with kind eyes. "Thanks for coming," he said warmly. "I know this seems crazy." He led her to a private office on the 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan like a kingdom. Alexander Sterling sat behind a glass desk, Victoria standing beside him like a beautiful, venomous statue. 5 fabric swatches lay on the desk, each numbered. "I'm going to blindfold you," Alexander said, standing. "I want you to touch each sample and identify it. Just honesty. No pressure." Victoria's posture radiated pure skepticism. Emma's hands trembled as Alexander tied a silk scarf over her eyes. The world went dark. She heard only her own breathing. Too loud, too fast, too terrified. Alexander placed the first swatch in her hands. She explored the weave with her fingertips, felt the weight, the texture, how it responded to pressure. She brought it close and inhaled. Real wool carries faint lanolin, earthy and animal. She rustled it near her ear. "Merino wool," she whispered. "Australian or New Zealand. Midweight. Authentic." Silence. Then the second swatch. This felt different immediately. Too smooth. Too perfect. She pressed it between her fingers and heard that telltale plastic whisper. "Synthetic blend," she said. "Polyester with silicone coating to fake softness, pretending to be cashmere. It's not." She heard Victoria shift her weight. A sharp intake of breath. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Emma identified each one. When Alexander removed the blindfold, his expression had completely changed. "You got them all correct," he said quietly. "Every single one." Victoria's face was a mask, but her hands were clenched so tight her knuckles had gone white. "I want to hire you," Alexander said. "Quality consultant. Independent contractor. Full supply chain access." Emma stared. "Mr. Sterling, I'm not qualified." "You're the only qualified person here," he said. "Everyone else has credentials. You have something better. You have truth." Victoria stepped forward. "Alexander, this is insane. She's a hotel maid. She's the person who might save this company," he said. "If you have a problem with that, we can discuss your concerns privately." For 3 weeks, Emma disappeared into Sterling House's supply chain records. Marcus became her guide, her ally, pulling files that went back 5 years, and the pattern emerged like a photograph developing in darkness. 6 months ago, invoices started changing. Small alterations at first, mill names spelled slightly differently, certification numbers off by 1 digit. Things nobody would notice, unless they were looking. But Emma was looking now. Premium Italian wool, $280 per yard. Replaced with synthetic blends, $45 per yard. Cashmere from Mongolia, $890 per yard. Swapped with treated polyester, $62 per yard. Over and over and over. Hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen, hidden in decimal points and altered documents. And every single change traced back to one person's approval. Victoria Cross. The woman who built Sterling House's reputation. The creative genius, the visionary, the thief. "We need more," Alexander said when Emma showed him the evidence. "We need her caught in the act. Recorded. Undeniable." Emma's hands shook holding the documents. "She'll destroy me. She'll try," Alexander said. "But I won't let her. I promise you that." Emma looked at this man who'd given an invisible girl a chance. And she made a choice. "Tell me what to do." The plan was simple and terrifying. Marcus would send Victoria an encrypted email, appearing to be from her Italian supplier, warning that someone was investigating the fabric substitutions. Victoria would have to respond, to protect herself, to coordinate, and they would record everything. Emma waited in Alexander's office the night they sent the email. She couldn't sit still, couldn't breathe right. "What if she doesn't respond?" Emma whispered. "She will," Alexander said. People who steal always believe they're smarter than everyone else. It makes them careless. At 11:47 p.m., Victoria's response came through. Asterisk. I don't care what you have to do. If anyone properly tests these samples, we're finished. I fired the only person skilled enough to tell the difference. Some little housekeeper who thought she could play expert. Asterisk. Emma read the words and felt something crack inside her chest. She hadn't been fired for being wrong. She'd been fired for being right. We have her, Marcus breathed. But Alexander's face was grim. This will destroy her. Everything she built. Are you ready for that? Emma? Emma thought of her father. Of truth in her hands. Of all the invisible people who got crushed by beautiful lies. Yes, she said. I'm ready. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Friday. Emma stood outside the conference room at 8:45, her whole body shaking. She wore the only professional outfit she owned, a navy blazer from Goodwill, black pants with a repaired hem, shoes she'd polished until they looked almost new. She'd been invisible her whole life. In 15 minutes, she'd have to be seen. Alexander found her in the hallway. You don't have to do this. I can present the evidence. No, Emma said. It has to be me. People need to hear it from the person who found it. He nodded. Then did something unexpected. He took her hand. Whatever happens in there, he said quietly, you're not invisible anymore. Not to me. The conference room was packed. Board members, lawyers, executives, and Victoria Cross, sitting at the head of the table like a queen. When Emma walked in, Victoria's smile was pure poison. Alexander, Victoria said smoothly. Surely we're not wasting the board's time with. You're going to want to hear this, Alexander said. Emma's legs felt like water, but she walked to the front of the room. Marcus had set up a projector, a light table, fabric samples. 6 months ago, Emma began, her voice barely a whisper, then stronger. 6 months ago, someone started stealing from this company. Not money directly. Something more valuable. Trust. She placed 2 fabric swatches on the light table. One real, one fake. The overhead projector cast them onto the screen, magnified for everyone to see. This is authentic Italian wool, Emma said. Her hands were steady now. 2x2 twill weave. Natural sheen. The fibers have a slight crimp. She ran her fingers along it. The microphone picked up the soft, whispering sound. When you touch it, you hear this, like wind through leaves. Soft, alive. She lifted the second swatch. This is polyester wool blend with silicone treatment. Different sheen. See how it's almost too perfect? She demonstrated near the microphone. The sharp plastic snap was undeniable. When you touch it, you hear this. A snap. Plastic pretending to be real. Real fabric breathes. Fake fabric lies. The room was absolutely silent. For 6 months, Emma continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. Someone substituted materials like these throughout Sterling House's supply chain. Premium fabrics replaced with cheap alternatives. Certifications falsified. Invoices altered. Nearly $200,000 stolen. She looked directly at Victoria. By you. The room erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Board members turning to each other in shock. Victoria stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor like a scream. This is absolutely ridiculous. Victoria's voice cut through the chaos. You're believing a fired hotel worker? Someone who failed a basic verification test over a creative director with 8 years of experience? We have your emails, Alexander said quietly. But his voice carried. We have your supplier communications. Victoria froze. Marcus stepped forward with a laptop. We have shipping records showing the substitutions, invoice histories showing the alterations. And we have this. He pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the conference room. Crystal clear. Undeniable. Asterisk. I don't care what you have to do. If anyone properly tests these samples, we're finished. I fired. The only person skilled enough to tell the difference. Some little housekeeper who thought she could play expert. Asterisk. The silence that followed was profound. Absolute. Emma watched Victoria's carefully constructed mask finally, completely shatter. What she saw underneath wasn't the monster she'd imagined. Just a woman. Scared. Cornered. Desperate. Someone who'd climbed so high she'd forgotten there was ground below. "You don't understand," Victoria whispered. "I came from nothing. I worked twice as hard as anyone. I deserved." "You deserved respect," Alexander said quietly. "You earned it through your work, but you destroyed it the moment you chose profit over principle." Security stood ready. Victoria looked at Emma one final time. "I could have made you somebody. Could have taught you how this world really works." "You did teach me," Emma said softly. "You taught me that climbing means nothing if you forget what you're standing on." As Victoria was escorted out, the room buzzed with shock and relief. Alexander raised his hand for silence. "I owe this company an apology. I trusted titles over truth, credentials over character. I almost let someone destroy what took decades to build." He turned to Emma. "You saved us. Not just the company, the principle it was founded on. That quality matters. That what's real matters." "I just wanted people to remember," Emma said, her voice shaking, "that what's real still exists." 1 year later, Emma stood backstage at a converted Brooklyn warehouse, adjusting a charcoal blazer on a woman who taught 3rd grade in the Bronx. The fabric was perfect real wool, ethically sourced, fairly priced. Every piece in the new Emma collection carried a QR code tracing its journey from fiber to finished garment. Transparency in every thread. "Nervous?" Alexander appeared beside her. They'd been dating 6 months now, carefully building something real. "Terrified," Emma admitted. "What if nobody cares that it's authentic?" "They'll care," he said. "People are tired of being lied to." The fashion show was simple. No theatrical lighting. No pounding music. Just real people wearing clothes that worked, that lasted, that meant what they promised. At the end, Alexander brought Emma on stage. She wasn't prepared for the applause that filled the space like physical warmth. "A year ago," Alexander said into the microphone, "this company nearly disappeared because we forgot our purpose. We were saved not by reputation or expensive consultants. We were saved by honesty. By a woman who understood that quality isn't about price tags, it's about truth." He took Emma's hand. "Emma Hayes taught me that invisible people see the most. That the hands we overlook often hold everything up." The crowd stood. Emma looked out at hundreds of faces, all of them seeing her, really seeing her. And for the first time in her life, being visible didn't feel like danger. It felt like coming home. That night, Alexander and Emma walked through Brooklyn. No destination in mind. He took her hand. "I was thinking about what's next. For the company. For us. Those feel like different conversations. Maybe they're the same one." He stopped. Faced her. "I want to expand the Emma collection. Make it our core. Build a company where every person in the supply chain is valued. Visible. Fairly compensated." "That's expensive and difficult," Emma said. "I know. But I can't do it without you. Not just as a consultant. As a partner. A real one." Emma felt her heart skip. "Alexander, I'm not proposing," he smiled. "Not yet. I'm just saying I see a future. One where we're building something together. Something meaningful." She looked at this man who'd learned to value substance over surface. "I see it too," she whispered. He kissed her then. Gentle and certain. And the city moved around them, full of invisible people whose hands held everything up. Emma Hayes had spent her whole life disappearing. But the moment she decided to be seen, she discovered something extraordinary. Truth doesn't make you invisible. Truth makes you unforgettable. So, did Emma's story touch your heart? Did it make you think about the invisible people in your own life who hold everything together? Drop a comment below telling me what city you're watching from, and share this story with someone who needs to remember that being real is more powerful than being perfect. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. See you in the next one.